name is Hunter Farshian, and this is my game design document, Construction for Destruction. Overall, it is a 2D game about creating structures slash builds that will be tested in various ways, with the main goal of the structure withstanding the test of the level as best as possible. It's a logical puzzle game and a bit of a simulation game because the player is to solve the puzzles of each level, build whatever structure is needed to pass the level, and the simulation because it's going to be simulated. Something's going to happen to the building or something's going to affect it that it will be used to score the building or to pass the test. It'll be for all ages, of course, but it'll be more focused towards younger ages. It'll be suitable for all ages, though. It'll be more focused towards mobile as has a more simple nature and learning elements. Um, it's well suited for like tablets, clicking and drawing, and just learning on a tablet overall. It'll be 2D with a movable camera that the player can use to get a sense of the environment and more control in building. It'll be with a windowed view with panels on the sides that help with controls and mechanics and options and requirements. The main objective is to beat levels with an S grade. The player is scored with points based on how well they did, which will give them a percentage of a grade, with S having a percentage of 100 plus. And the reason I think percentages and grades are good for this type of game is to let players know how close or far they are from the next grade. Um, if you give them like a bar from 0 to 100%, then they can see how well they're actually doing. The rules are simple. There's budget, and using material will use up the budget depending on the material. The player will have a build phase in which they can interact with the environment by building, and afterwards they can simulate the level and be graded. The player must stay on budget and will be graded no matter what. The player will also have to switch between the building phase and the simulation phase to actually solve the puzzle. If you build something but you don't test it, you won't get a grade. If you don't build something and try and test something, nothing will happen. Um, and as for the interface, it's just going to be classic mobile game menu screen, the name, credits, and version number with options, start game, and exit. They'll all be super simple, very easy for younger audiences to understand and flow into each other. The gameplay will consist of building and testing to score as high as possible and achieving a good grade. This will be the main gameplay loop. The player will be presented with the level, and like I said earlier, they'll have a little camera they can control around the level to get a sense of the environment, what's going to happen. They'll also be told how they're going to be graded, what's the objective, things like that. And then the player will create whatever structure they want, however best they think will give them a high score, whatever strategy they're thinking of, and then they'll simulate the level and then be graded. Players are allowed to retry levels at will and can also retry a level simply by selecting again in level select. A player's best attempt will be saved for each level, but as far as like mid-try attempts, only one will ever be saved, and just whatever level they're mid-attempt. If they try and start another level while one level has a mid-attempt, their old attempt midway attempt will be voided and a new attempt will be started on the last one. And the core mechanics of this game will be the physics, the budget, the phases, and the scoring. These mechanics will really ultimately build the whole game, basically. The physics will be generous but fair. We want to keep the game balanced. The game is to teach more concepts more abstractly than one-to-one with the real world, and a player will be rewarded still for learning what materials help in what situations and using the environment to pass. The players will have an option of a grid to help determine the budget they'll use. Each material will have like a cost per square meter, and a grid of square meters will help them determine how much they're actually using whenever they place stuff. The player will only be able to build in build phase and watch in the simulation phase. Them having to think logically what will happen when they start the simulation and what's going to happen to their building is overall good for the game. The game will be balanced around these mechanics: the budget, and the scoring. The budget and the scoring will be lenient and fair, so that will definitely reward more creative thinking and logical solutions, but it won't be so hard that you have to make the pixel perfect building to pass the level. This game is supposed to be for younger audiences, and to avoid frustrations, it is best to be lenient, be fair, but still give them a sense that what they're doing actually matters, that they don't have to do anything at all to not pass. The levels are linear and must be done in order. The first few levels will be tutorial levels, and from there, each chapter of levels will have different objectives and concepts that will increase in difficulty. As levels become more difficult, it will also be because of complexity, as levels will include more complex environments and more materials, resulting in more complex buildings. The player will be slowly introduced to new concepts as the game goes on, and it'll be their job to pick up these concepts and apply them to future levels and get a grasp on how they work in the environment. It'll be slowly building up the difficulty. This is again for younger audiences, so we won't want to increase the difficulty too much very fast. It'll lead to just more frustration than actual good learning outcomes. The story is a simple one. The player is just a civil engineer tasked with creating structures for different scenarios and disasters. The tutorial levels are considered simulated training, and the engineer goes on to real levels and situations. The player is just meant to put them in the mindset that they're building these for whatever goal they want, for the whatever disaster or scenario they're tackling. Um, Gives them a bit of a sense of why they're doing what they're doing. It's because it's their job. Other than that, though, there's not really a story. I feel like the game wouldn't benefit from one too much. The main aspects and draws of the game are the engaging building and simulation rather than the story. Um, Character development is the player development. As the player finishes the tutorial and learns more, the character learns more. The player is the character. So their development is the character's development. As you go through the tutorial, you learn the controls, how to build, how to simulate, and overall objectives of the game. Since the player is the since the player is the character, the civil engineer, it's the character learning that kind of basically as well. Um, so they're kind of the same. And the world itself is one with a lot of problems, a lot of structures and disasters that need fixed, need help, and the player is tasked with helping create stronger buildings, finding solutions, and overall being good at their job. Um, of course, we need buildings and solutions to disasters, and so it's the player's job to find good solutions and then be scored on those solutions. The game is also about learning and logical thinking. Players go through the game improving their skills, learning concepts about creating better structures, and overall, this has a positive impact on players. It's a learning game, so younger audiences are engaging with the game, really thinking logically, and overall, I think that'll have great benefits for a lot of people, younger audiences as well as older audiences. Just thinking logically and being engaged in learning is always good. It'll lead to more positive outcomes in the future, encourage more thinking and logical thinking in the future, and is overall just good for society. Um, I think the game should be created because of the positive effects it can have on society. As before, learning and critical thinking, very huge skills, very good to encourage audiences to engage with these skills, and doing that through an engaging learning game is really good. I just think overall it had positive effects. There are, however, some similar games on the market that explore similar ideas. Angry Birds being very famous. It doesn't focus on building as much as destroying the buildings, but it has like a similar physics engine where buildings are being tested. There are a few building games that have similar ideas, such as Bridge Constructor or Ply Bridge, but these focus more on bridge construction, and while they have variety, the game I propose can have more variety in the types of construction and freedom in construction. The game I'm proposing could have more objectives, different objectives, and overall will be more linear with how it's scored and how the levels you can go about solving each level.